All right, good morning. This is Jeff Orrock here at the National Weather Service in Wakefield. Talking about the current ongoing winter storm. We'll hit this week and a little bit into this weekend. Obviously, winter storm warnings remain in effect, even though a lot of times some of these areas, have changed over to rain across central Virginia. We still have a little bit of a freezing rain accumulation north and west of Richmond, and then of course northern Virginia. And as you go further out west, there's more snow and sleet right now. And the winter weather advisories are still in effect, south of Richmond. We'll be looking at this a little bit later today, but there is another batch of snow coming through later this evening, which I'm going to talk about, that could give us a real quick accumulation. And then the temperatures drop quickly. And then we could see some real road problems late tonight and especially Tuesday morning. So this event's not over, even though we're seeing rain in some areas. The areas that see rain could have some pretty icy roads come tomorrow morning. So we will definitely talk about that. Just currently looking at the temperatures, what's going on across the area. Hopefully it'll come back. There you go. Right at or above freezing across central Virginia. So a mix of rain and freezing rain across the Richmond area. As you go south down the peninsula, Williamsburg is up to 35. Here in Wakefield, we're 34. So we're purely rain. So it's really kind of, I'd say, north and maybe a little bit west of Richmond, where we're seeing some of these 32-degree readings mixing in. But by the time you get up, I'd say Fort AP Hill north, you're seeing mostly temperatures below freezing, especially upper 20s as you get into northern Virginia. So still a lot of snow, sleet mixing with some freezing rain up there as you go further north up I-95. And of course, back towards Louisa, still mostly all below freezing as well, especially as you get back towards Charlottesville. For our friends out there on the Maryland Eastern Shore, I hate to say it, you guys are just really, really stuck today. Temperatures right now in the mid to upper 20s. You're not going to get above freezing today. Ocean City just hit 35 right at the beach, but Ocean Pines is at 32. So really locked in up here. Maryland's going to continue to get buried in snow and some sleet. Going to be a real big problem up there for Maryland. So just something to keep in mind. And when I call on the radar, you'll be able to see kind of the precipitation shield here. And so there's maybe a little bit of a back edge, coming here where things are going to let up. This whole thing's moving east. But then the stuff coming at us from the northwest is going to fill in. And as the storm system goes offshore, you're going to see this fill in and then return as snow later today, which we'll talk about. But kind of gives you an idea of where the precipitation's falling right now. I did want to show this kind of the current situation. So we are seeing some power outages increase, especially west of Richmond, where we're seeing a little bit more icing. So parts of Chesterfield, Powhatan, Goochland, even in Henrico, I'm starting to see some power outages. If this is just a poweroutage.us map, so just kind of realize that this is probably going to continue on. One thing we're going to have to watch out for, especially as you get north of Richmond, or if we get a little bit of icing in the trees north and west of Richmond and across northern Virginia, the winds pick up tonight. And so if we do have any load of wet snow or icing in the trees, we may actually see power outages starting to increase a little bit this evening as the winds become a little more gusty and that Arctic cold front finally pushes through right behind that snow burst. So it's just something to keep in mind. We'll be watching these power outages and see if they start to increase later this evening, because I think that is a real possibility. Kind of showing you some of the cameras. These are actually from our friends at VDOT. Hopefully they start to update. You can kind of see up here towards Stafford. The roads are definitely covered. This is northern Virginia near Fredericksburg. So they've had quite a bit more heavy snow, maybe upwards of about 5 to 6 inches up in that neck of the woods. This is kind of getting us more towards Doswell. And so you can kind of see here getting that rain, freezing rain. You do see the load in the trees here a little bit. So you kind of see here where the ice is kind of pulling down on the pines over here off to the right. So that's some freezing rain. So we're going to have to watch out for this, especially as the winds pick up a little bit later this evening. So you can definitely see the snow load or this ice load there in Doswell. Kind of on the south side of Richmond. Again, you can still see some of the icing in the trees here, but we've changed over to mainly rain, maybe a little bit of freezing rain here on the south side. As you get up, actually, here's more towards 288. Whoops, sorry, let me pull this back up. More towards 288. Again, you can kind of see the snow here. Roads are pretty clear, right at, probably getting that wintry mix, rain and maybe a little bit of freezing rain. I'm going to go over to our Maryland, our DOT folks in Maryland. This has been a different show. We'll see if this is going to update. Yeah, so this is up there towards Cambridge. Obviously, this is a whole different event. They're getting some very heavy snow. It's continuing to snow very heavy up there. So going to be a real problem. This is over towards Vienna in Maryland. Again, very heavy snow, very dangerous conditions up there. So they're really into almost not whiteout conditions, but they're getting some pretty heavy snow rates. And you saw those temperatures in the 20s. So Maryland Eastern Shore, I'm really stuck with this really for the rest of the day. Even kind of going to come down here more towards get down here towards Berlin on the east side, and you're still going to see some pretty good snow. Not as bad as what you saw back towards Cambridge, but not great. You can kind of see what's going on here, a lot more accumulation. So that's what we have. So keep that in mind as we go forward, because that is the current situation. Just a quick highlights, I won't read this verbatim. This event's not over. Again, we're going to have a return of snow. A little bit of freezing rain will continue today. We're really watching out for this increased power outages. So we've highlighted that in red for later this evening as the wind picks up. So just really be aware of that. Getting to the next slide, this is additional snowfall. So this is not what's already fallen. This is what we were expecting from a 7 a.m. this morning until about midnight tonight. So, areas that have rain across Richmond, I mean, you might be able to get another 1 to 2 inches of snow as this second round comes through. Some of that might melt, but I mean, I think we're going to get maybe 1 to 2 inches of snow at least fall, and we'll see how much accumulates, but might be enough to turn things white again, especially across, parts of city of Richmond, Chesterfield, out towards Powhatan. And as you go north, maybe about another 2 to 3 inches in parts of Tappahannock and back towards, Ashland and Bowling Green. And more of a wintry mix as you get Fredericksburg north, and that's where we think we may see, from 7 o'clock this morning till midnight tonight, maybe another 4 or 5 inches of snow, maybe for up in that neck of the woods. So if I look at just our area, and this actually shows the Maryland Eastern Shore, so this is just our forecast area. You saw the pictures up there, and it's a lot of snow. And as of, if you go from 7 o'clock this morning till midnight tonight, maybe another 6 inches of snow. Up there. I mean, added on to, what you've already got. So same thing here in Salisbury, 4 to 5 inches, and it goes all the way over to Berlin and those areas. So Maryland Eastern Shore is a big concern, and you're just kind of locked into the snow, and it is going to mix with sleet, and that might actually help, knock totals down a little bit, but it's already bad. So you're just stuck all day, snow and sleet, with quite a bit more additional accumulation expected. And it really doesn't end up there until about, I'd say, 10 to midnight tonight, which we'll talk about that. Let's see, this is just our total event snowfall. So if you kind of add in the compression and everything and the melting, this is kind of the numbers we've been looking at as far as from what happened, yesterday afternoon all the way through midnight tonight. So kind of your forecast for the event total really hasn't changed. And you see these really high numbers here, upwards of maybe, well to 8 to 15 inches of snow up in Cambridge, 13 inches maybe in Salisbury. So some pretty significant numbers up in that neck of the woods. Icing, it's probably not, it's not quite this widespread anymore. I think it's kind of limited now. Maybe, you saw the temperatures north of Richmond, a little ways west of Richmond, maybe up to about Fredericksburg. So this is kind of the area right now we're still seeing some icing, as well as even the western part of Virginia. We're still seeing quite a bit of icing. Not really expecting much freezing rain up in the Maryland Eastern Shore. It's mostly going to be snow and sleet mix up in that area. Could briefly be a little bit of light freezing rain, but mostly snow and sleet for our Maryland friends. Kind of looking at how it might play out as far as the day goes. This was 10 o'clock this morning, so we had that more of a mix in Richmond, rain, snow, some freezing rain, and that mix of sleet and snow went all the way up to Fredericksburg, and everybody in the dark blue was really stuck in that heavy snow, including a lot of the Maryland Eastern Shore. Just a little bit of a mix with sleet, but still a lot of heavy snow there. And that was about 10 a.m. This is what we're expecting at about maybe 1 o'clock this afternoon. So, definitely more rain. We kind of already starting to head this way, where the rain pushes maybe just north of Richmond. Freezing rain as you get out, past Short Pump and you're getting out more towards Louisa and stuff. Yeah, maybe some freezing rain really continues on there off and on, really for the entire day. And then, as you get north of, I'd say from Ashland north, maybe freezing rain and sleet mixed in with a little bit of rain. And then as you get, north of Fredericksburg, may stay in the heavy snow. And again, our friends here in Maryland, mostly going to be rain, snow, and I'd say some sleet mix, but probably mostly snow and sleet mix over in here. But the Virginia Eastern Shore should change mostly over to rain, and that rain may push a little bit up to Chrisfield, and maybe parts of Snow Hill here. We'll see if it can change over to all rain before the snow comes back. So that's 1 o'clock this afternoon. Yeah, but then here we go at 4. Here comes the cold air. You see the snow is really starting to surge back south toward Richmond. So somewhere right around, I'd say 4 to 5 o'clock, the rain should start to change back over to snow. Kind of see that snow line from Farmville to Richmond. Of course, Cambridge is locked in it all day long. Maybe Ocean City, might start to try to change back over to snow by about 4 or 5 o'clock this evening. So that's kind of the timing there. I'm going to show a little bit of a model simulation that takes us past that time, because that stopped at about 4 o'clock. So this is our model simulation. Let me get positioned so I can actually use my controls. Let's see here. I'm trying to move this thing back and forth. Give me just a second. Trying to get my controls set so I can move it back and forth. Here we go. All right. And I'm just going to take this simulation time off there. So this is about 5 o'clock this evening. So you can kind of see that rain snow line pushing back towards Richmond. This is about 7 o'clock, and this is the main thing I really wanted to show right here. 7 o'clock this evening with the dark blue across Richmond, actually starting to push down I-95 towards really it past Williamsburg and getting into parts of Newport News and Yorktown. Maybe a rain snow mix there, but these darker blues represent heavier snow rates. So conditions could really start to deteriorate, I say, between maybe 5 to 7 p.m. across central Virginia as this cold air comes in and we start to transition back over from what was rain back over to snow there. And so if I move it ahead a little bit in time, this is 8 p.m. this evening. Notice how you still got some pretty good snow across a lot of the area here this evening. So again, all the I-95 corridor starting to push the snow all the way down the peninsula, almost to Norfolk by 8 o'clock. And eventually the snow does get into Norfolk about 9 p.m. Suggests maybe but sometime between 7 and 9, even the Norfolk, the south side, Virginia Beach starts to change over. But a lot of good bursts of snow here on the peninsulas and still snowing in the I-95 corridor tonight at 9. Here's 10 o'clock tonight. Eastern Shore still getting pretty pummeled here at this point with some pretty good snow. And then the I-95 corridor is starting to taper off. And then maybe by about 11 o'clock to midnight, this thing is finally out of here and this is all over. So I just don't want folks to think, yeah, it's raining, this is over. It's not. We've still got this second round to go through here this evening. And on top of that, the temperatures really plummet and get very, very, very cold. And so I kind of step ahead into our snow rates. Like I said, we've really been hitting up here in the Maryland Eastern Shore pretty heavy. Going to have some good snow rates really most of today. The snow rates might decrease a little bit after 1 o'clock this afternoon as you get more sleet mixing in, and the precipitation might decrease some. But you'll notice here from about 7 p.m. to midnight, the snow rates actually start to increase again. You start to see some of these light blues showing back up here where you actually may get some rates of about inch an hour, maybe even inch and a half an hour there for a little while. Later this evening as that snow pivots back through. So could pick up a really quick, few inches of accumulation on the backside of this system. One thing I want to hit on too is that you look at these wind forecasts, and I know it's a little bit busy, but what you see here on the right, these are actually some of the winds we're expecting, basically later on this evening and on Tuesday, some of the wind gusts. And if you look at the timing here, you really notice after about 6 o'clock or so this evening, a lot of these winds start to increase and get kind of gusty. You're starting to see more wind gusts, maybe 15 to maybe even, 35 miles per hour. So we're gonna have to watch out for that. Here's Snow Hill up in Maryland. I mean, the winds pick up to about maybe 20, 25 mile per hour gusts. Same thing here in Tappahannock, getting up maybe 20, 25. And so places where we have trees laden with the snow and ice, when these winds pick up, that could be a really, really big problem. I mean, here in Richmond, it's not much wind now, but you start to look at this evening about gusts about 20 miles per hour or so. So if there's ice, in areas north and west of Richmond, that's going to be a problem. Even out towards Louisa, I'll highlight that. I mean, it's not as much wind, but you're still talking about 15 mile per hour winds. So that's going to be enough to get the trees swaying. And if they're loaded, could start to cause some real power outages. And you notice these winds are kind of with us really from today. They weaken a little bit on Wednesday, but then Thursday's windy as well. So it's going to be cold, going to be windy, going to be a player in our weather for sure. Looking at the temperatures, this is another big concern. A lot of concerns with the weather today. Pretty good here, mid-30s, maybe across central Virginia. That's what we're getting into, and kind of limiting the freezing rain, maybe to Louisa, over towards maybe Bowling Green north, as that things change over to rain and we get above freezing. Again, Maryland Eastern Shore, you're not getting above freezing. So that's not going to, 34 in Salisbury is probably optimistic. I think we stay freezing up here all day long. Main thing is look at these temperatures Tuesday morning. So it's wet now. We're going to have a return of a burst of snow this evening. Following that burst of snow after midnight, somewhere between, I'd say, about maybe 3 to about 5 in the morning before daybreak, the skies are going to probably clear. We're going to lose the cloud cover. And when we lose the cloud cover, the temperatures are going to plummet into the teens to the, upper teens to, let's say, low 20s. And when we open up the sky and this wet surface, we could see flash freeze. So these are really cold temperatures. So everything that's wet may turn into a nice sheet of ice that could be pretty dangerous across the region here for Tuesday morning. And, this isn't just Central Virginia. This is also Southeast Virginia, Hampton Roads, especially the peninsula. I mean, these temperatures are really, really cold. So things might freeze pretty quick, even down in North Carolina. We're really going to have to watch this everywhere because everything is going to be pretty wet. And things may ice up really fast during the early morning hours and really impact that morning commute with these low temperatures Tuesday morning. So heads up. Looking ahead into Wednesday, especially places where we have a lot of snowpack, especially north of Richmond, Maryland Eastern Shore, we're going to struggle to hit freezing or even get into the mid-30s in a lot of these areas. So Wednesday, very cold, also very windy. So the wind chill is going to be just bitter. But here on the Maryland Eastern Shore, we're probably not going to have a ton of melt. We'll have some, but not a lot. And then these are low temperatures Tuesday night, Wednesday morning. Again, some seriously cold values with some single digits, maybe low teens across Central Virginia, and really, teens to maybe low to mid 20s everywhere. So melt, refreeze. That's going to be kind of the mode of operation here the next couple of days. And it's just when it gets this cold, things are going to ice up, and there's not much folks can do to stop the refreezing on the roads. So whatever's wet Wednesday morning will be ice. Just looking ahead into our temperatures, I'm mainly going to focus on the lows here. It's obviously cold, but these are low temperatures across the entire region. So if you look, we're really seeing single digits and teens and maybe even low to mid 20s at the coast, honestly, all the way through Sunday. This Arctic air, we're going to get kind of another punch later on this week. So it's going to stay incredibly cold. This is probably one of the longer outbreaks of cold weather that we've had, in some time. So just be prepared for this. Hopefully we don't get too many power outages, but it is going to be bitterly cold. And so this is going to start to, freeze pipes and things like that, especially anything that's not really well warmed or insulated. We're going to start to have some issues, but this is a pretty long, extreme period of cold here coming up for this entire week, all the way through the weekend. Again, look at the temperatures this weekend, knowing that there could be another winter storm coming. It's cold. So whatever happens will be, snow and maybe a little bit of rain. So we'll see how that plays out. Hitting these wind chills when that wind picks up. Again, tonight, wind chills pretty much in the single digits everywhere. By Tuesday morning, maybe some wind chills in the teens, but mostly single digits across the area. Wednesday morning is even worse. You see even colder wind chills here. And then Thursday morning, basically, negative values to single digits just about across the entire region. So bitterly cold, very cold temperatures. Again, we haven't experienced this in some time. So just something to kind of keep in mind. Friday morning, still wind chills in single digits, maybe to around 12. I mean, this is across the entire region, from the coast all the way, back towards Louisa. So just kind of watch this. Looking ahead into what may be coming, this is just a planning graphic to say, okay, looking at the model trends, based on what potential snowfall might be, what areas might be impacted by any kind of potential winter storm. And this is in that Saturday to Sunday timeframe coming up. And the left image here says, where you may see some snow accumulation that will at least cause some minor travel problems. So it's across really the entire region. And on the right is the probability of seeing what we call moderate. I mean, more significant travel impacts from snow. And it really kind of carpet bombs, with at least a low probability that 10 to 20%, really all of Central Virginia and the Eastern Shore, meaning that the models still don't know exactly what's going to happen with this coastal storm. It's different than this current storm. The storm this weekend, if we get it, is going to be a nor'easter. So it's going to come at us from the up the coast, like more of a classic snowstorm does. So it's going to be a matter of, how close that storm system tracks to the coast and how intense it is, as far as how much snowfall we might see. Just throwing out one of the models, some of the models right now, the ensembles. This is the probability this weekend of seeing at least 2 inches of snow or more. You don't expect to see a lot of high probabilities this far out sometimes because it's so far out in the future. But you get an idea here, at least some low probabilities, here even up to 30 to 40% across central Virginia that we could see at least a couple inches of snow or more. So we'll have to watch this. But there's a little bit of a signal. If I zoom out, you can kind of see here as a storm system moves up the coast, it might kick back some snow here across parts of the area. So the verdict's still out on this. We'll just have to watch it. We're very cold going into this event. So, anything that does fall is probably going to stick and accumulate pretty quickly. So we'll see what happens. We'll be able to hopefully fine tune this more come about Wednesday or so. So we'll see how that plays out. And with that, I'm going to turn the rest of the briefing over to Harry, and he's going to talk about just the temperature outlook and go into the marine forecast.
Hi, everyone. I'm Harry Thomas. I'm a meteorologist here at the National Weather Service in Wakefield. So like Jeff was saying earlier, these cold temperatures are going to stick around with us really for the next 8 to 14 days, and we're going to see really below average of what we typically see around our area. Usually we're seeing upper 40s and middle 40s around Salisbury and Richmond, lower 50s in North Carolina and Norfolk. And then our lows are usually in the upper 20s in both Salisbury and Richmond, and then lower 30s in Norfolk and Elizabeth City. But as well, in the extended outlook, after these two systems exit our area, the Climate Prediction Center does have us under below average of precipitation. So we could be seeing drier conditions after these two systems move out of our area. So turning it now to the marine side, we're looking at gale conditions. Gale warnings are up right now for all of our coastal waters until late Tuesday. And we're not looking at any storm conditions, but those gale conditions are high and they're going to be across all of our waters until Tuesday. Then we'll slowly die down with gales late Tuesday as well. Could see some really high-end small crafts advisories for Wednesday and Wednesday night before then picking back up to gale conditions across our coastal waters Thursday into Thursday night, then back down again to high-end small crafts across our waters Friday into Friday night. So hazardous waters overall for our coastal waters with the persistent northwesterly flow and colder air continuing to evac into our area. So looking at the max wind gusts through the next 72 hours, could see wind gusts approaching the lower 40s, 42 knots off of the Maryland Eastern Shore and Accomack counties all the way down towards Corolla, and then possibly 40-knot gusts as well across the bay. And then looking at our max wave heights, could see 5 to 7 foot seas across the bay, as well as 7 to 10 foot seas across the open waters. With the northwest winds rapidly increasing later this afternoon and into tonight, there are gale warnings in effect today through Tuesday, with again gusts up to 35 to 40 plus knots possible tonight. And then, as I said earlier, hazardous marine conditions are just going to be expected to continue through much of the week. So looking at it throughout the days, those winds are going to slowly pick up later on this evening into tomorrow, then slowly die down into high-end small crafts late Tuesday into much of Wednesday before by late Wednesday, early Thursday, we're going to pick those gale conditions back up, and then those gale conditions will then dwindle into high-end small crafts throughout Friday. And you can see on the right with the wave forecast as well, seas are going to continue to build across the bay and across our open waters. And so with that, I'm going to turn it back to Jeff right now.